All right, guys, I want to get on here and I'm going to shout this out loud. Fair use, fair use. If you guys had the opportunity to watch this overview, please do so if you haven't. And if you guys have, I would like to know your opinions of it down in the comments. And for my audience who have not subscribed to me, if you like the content, please consider subscribing. Once again, I haven't said this in a while. In the game, I am Gadget 914. If you guys want to look me up, see what properties I own, and so on and so forth. So I listened to this overview two times, okay? Two times. And I took some notes, if you guys can see it. Hopefully you can. It's kind of blurry right now, but it just needs time, take some time to focus in. But I took some notes, right? Because I it kind of makes at first, okay, after listening to it the first time, I was still left confused. One, two, it felt like not a lot of questions were answered. They just kind of just said their piece on certain things. And also, I understand I'm not a PhD. Let me clarify that. I didn't go to school for economics, but for the last 10 years, I can say I've spent a lot of hours um, doing macro and studying and reading up on macroeconomics. Okay. So I believe based on the 10 years, I think it's about, let's say from about 2009, 2010. All right. I've been really getting into it. My first book I read on economics was The Lord of Finance. Do I have that book here? I have that book. I still do have the book. I collect a lot of books when it comes to economics and finance. I really enjoy that. So that's where I'm getting my information and my understanding from. Okay. So I'm not like a PhD. I'm not on Dirk's level. But Dirk did say something that I don't believe is 100% when it comes to inflation. His definition of inflation is like way off. Okay. But I'll get to that in a second. It's probably going to be my fifth point, but I'm gonna get to some of these little clips in here that I either have a problem with or I see where there may be some questions or something like that. So I'm gonna get into it. The first one was approximately 7 minutes into the video. Let me see if I have the video right here. And let me find approximately the 7 minute mark. Okay, so once again, I'm going to say, guys, fair use. I'm only using this for educational reasons. I'm not using it to make a profit off of it or anything like that. So here we go. So at the 7 minute mark, this is where he talks about the reasons for the yes vote. Okay, so here we go.
To both pools, we will transfer UPIX, or rather UPIX will be transferred from the community pool into the Upland pool on a monthly basis in order to continue basically, retaining our supply so that we can sell UPIX to the community. So we would do this without increasing the UPIX supply is kind of the high level idea. So our goals for the proposal would be basically as follows. One, ensure a steady stream of UPIX to the Upland pool without increasing the UPIX supply, and only increasing that supply when macroeconomic conditions require it. Also, to protect the integrity of the Upland economy by maintaining the current UPIX supply, and then also position the community for further decentralization by empowering the community pool to fund the Upland operator in the future. So, what are the outcomes for this proposal?
Okay, so that's if you give a yes vote. That's how it's supposed to go down based on the whole reason why we're doing this. And the person that's viewing me right now, if you heard that, let me know, because I have an earpiece in, so I'm not really sure if you guys can hear what is being played right now. But please let me know in the comments. If anyways, I'll probably put the timestamps down in the comments section, so you can listen to it yourself. But so that's what happened if we get the yes vote. Okay, let me do. Can you hear them speak? Okay, so let me go now to the no vote, which is literally, I'll just let it continue playing because you're pretty much there. Okay, so this is the if you vote, I think no, right?
I definitely want to go through exactly what's going to happen if these things, if it passes and if it doesn't pass. So if UIP1 is approved, basically we will mint new UPIX only to the community pool, only when monetary expansion is needed. So
Which is
it's
what
not
he
something
said
that would happen
already.
right away. The community pool would then compensate Upland Me Inc., the company, the operator, by transferring UPIX to the Upland pool on a monthly basis. This amount is variable depending on user activity and engagement, and I'll go through that a little bit more detail in a second here. The Upland community would then be positioned for potential future decentralization by enabling their ability to compensate the operator for their services. Now, if the proposal does not pass, then Upland Me would mint new UPIX to both the Upland pool and the community pool, regardless of whether monetary expansion is needed. We would leverage that newly minted UPIX to fund the operations of Upland, and then we would use new UPIX minted to fund activities, again, regardless of whether or not we need it at this time. So, obviously, this is a very, heavy.
All right. So as you see, if we all vote no, they're just gonna continue doing it as how it's been done, right? So one of the main reasons why they're doing this whole vote is because they had their white paper and they found an issue or a possible issue in the future, which I believe that possible issue is having too much UPIX into the game. So what they want to do is, instead of having all that UPIX sitting in the community pool, they literally recycle it into Upland to fund development of the game, to fund Upland to everything that Upland does, which is advertise, development, pay their employees, everything that, and just resell, and lastly, resell those same UPIX that's in the community pool to new players into the game. So it's supposedly continuously recycled in and out of the community pool, back into the Upland pool, back into the community pool, back into the Upland pool. But my thing is, like, yes, you can do that. That sounds all right. But what happens when you have a lot of big players come in? I guess that's when they'll mint UPIX, right? I guess so. But at the same time, I don't really know if recycling UPIX that's already been purchased back into the community pool. Yes, that will increase the amount of players into the game, but not necessarily will increase the UPIX pool, because as far as it's set right now, every time someone clicks that UPIX button in the game and buys more UPIX, and make transactions, all of that goes into the community pool and increases the community pool. But let's carry on. So the next thing is that I want you guys to hear is that they're only doing this so they can really get an understanding of what our point of view is, and they make majority of the decision as a centralized business, or I guess company. It's not decentralized yet, and that's at the 9 minute and 30-second mark where they clarify that. So I'm gonna let you guys listen to that. and then we come back.
As of today, Upland is still a centralized platform, and macroeconomic decisions are made by the Upland Me team. But we wanted to put this out for a vote just because of one very simple fact, is that we identified a mechanic that we think should be adjusted as per what was stated in the white paper. And that difference, that potential slight conflict with what we stated in the white paper, is the reason we are seeking kind of like the support of the community in this move. I don't know if that.
Okay, so as you guys heard, so like I said, because of what was written in the white paper, they're making that change, and they want the community to have some input into this. Okay, guys, and to me, okay, I understand that is all fair, but the way they're going about it and how they're going to attach themselves to the community pool, I don't think is a really good idea at all. Like, to me, after watching it, I was left kind of confused. My decision really did not change on whether it's a yes or no. It remained the same, but they did say they're going to have another community chat in Discord tomorrow. So that's where I guess they'll be able to explain in more detail than they kind of did not really today about how they're gonna go about doing what they're doing. But one thing I found kind of interesting is that they're trying to reduce the amount of UPIX into the game that's in the game, right? And how they're planning on doing this is allowing that whole recycling community back into Upland pool, back into community pool, and so on and so forth. Right now, currently, there's an oversupply of properties, right? There's a lot of cities that have not been minted out fully. Brooklyn, what is it? San Francisco, and a couple other cities, the properties have dropped in value because Upland is demanding even more UPIX. And as I said in my last video in October, a lot of events happened. There was cars, there's block explorers, there was Jackie Say's collection. There was so many things that was happening that demanded a lot of UPIX, and that all got sucked out of the game. And LA, correct. LA was another one. There are so many of those cities that are still unminted. So I don't understand why or where this change has come, because it's not like the whole thing is minted out and prices have ballooned and stuff like that, right? And this is where it comes to that point about inflation, where even though Dirk is a PhD in economics, I disagree with his definition of inflation. Inflation is like a cold, right? I look at it like this. Hopefully I can explain this correctly, and I have what I'm trying to say properly so you guys can understand. Inflation is like a cold. The only way you know you have a cold is if you feel the symptoms of that cold. So the symptom of inflation is too much money being in a system. That's the only way you can know that things are inflating, because there's a lot of money in the system. And they also talk about let me actually play that section first. I'm just looking at my notes here. I'm going to go to the 27th minute, 28 seconds, just so you guys can get his definition of what it is. And I think this is absolutely wrong. Like, this is like way off. But here we go. Let you guys listen to this one, okay?
First of all, inflation normally is defined by when you have a basket, right? You take different products into it and you measure it, right? How it develops, right? We see that especially here in the US or in Europe, right? It's 10, 11%, because of course of the energy cost, what you see. So, it doesn't change because we're just moving from one pool to the other. So the 100 billion actually, which we originally, under this proposal, which we originally have minted, would they just stay the same as such, right?
So he says that inflation is when you take a basket of, say, currencies and you measure them. Go look up the definition, guys, of inflation, and you will not see what he just said as the definition. Like I said, I think of it as a cold. And in order for you to know that you have a cold, in order for you to know that there's inflation, there's something that has to be there to let you know, oh, this is a symptom of a cold, like sneezing, sore throat, all these things that happens to you, stuffy nose, runny nose, those are symptoms, okay? So when it comes to the economy, there has to be something, and he's gonna mention it, right? And I'm gonna put this on next to show you where they mention it, and it doesn't make any sense based on what he just said. But this is just how I see. This is why I said I was left dazed and confused after listening. So this is the 29th minute and approximately 15 seconds in. So I'm gonna play just before that. And then you're going to hear how they make a comparison to the U.S. economy and Upland, which is a horrible comparison, and I'll explain why in a second.
Also, the prices, inflation comes, when you look at the Federal Reserve, right? When it's faster, when money is printed faster than the economy actually grows, right? Then that is actually the problem. We don't have that issue here as such, right? We're just moving from one pool to the other.
Right. Yeah. Exactly. So on that same, token, obviously there's some.
Well, so here it is. This is where I think Idan jumps in and makes that. I think that comparison. He did mention the U.S. and having more money than what did he say again? Let's go back for a second.
When money is printed faster than the economy actually grows.
Okay,
right?
So money is printed faster than the economy is actually growing. Okay, so now all of a sudden, what he said before and now saying this is two different definitions, right? Completely different for inflation. So this is where I said I get a little bit confused because I know inflation as when you have too much money, like he said, going into the system and everybody has more money, so the cost of everything goes up, and then people have to pay more for the goods. That is inflation. That's you having your cold. The symptom is all the money going into the system. That's how I understand it, right? But hey, I'm not a PhD, guys. You guys can look it up for yourself, find the definition of words. I like to do that in a lot of stuff I talk about is look up the definition of words to really get an understanding of what it means. But so that's that one there, but we'll let him keep talking.
That is actually the problem. We don't have that issue here as such, right? We're just moving from one pool to the other.
Right. Yeah. Exactly. So on that same, token, obviously there's some conversation about Upland as a real world economy. Is it a real world economy? Is it not a real world economy? But I believe your intention was that Upland was built to mimic real world economies and basically make use of those of real economics to support the ecosystem. I've definitely seen some players contradicting this, saying Upland is not a real world economy. It shouldn't be treated as such. But where do we stand on that topic? Idan, can you tell us a little bit more?
Okay, so this is where Idan compares, I think, the U.S. to Upland. Just watch this, guys.
Yeah, so I mean, we will go to the philosophical question of what is a real economy. I think Upland, to my point of view, is a real economy. Just first of all, because again, definitely when you compare it to most, 99% of Web 2 or even some of the Web 3 games, which means that most of them run just fake economies. It's basically, the player versus whoever operates it, time multiplied by the times of players that are in the ecosystem. We are absolutely not that. So again, Upland is an open market, based on true ownership, where players are able to liquidate value back into the real world if they choose to. Again, that by itself starts going into the realm of mimicking or actually being a real world economy. So whether or not it technically falls under that definition, we absolutely treat it as a real economy. And we want to make sure that the economy is also healthy and has a future to it.
Exactly. And I think you touched on a very important aspect on that, and it's the community's ability to extract value that makes us a very different economy than traditional gaming. I'm a huge gamer myself. I've played tons of games. Obviously, there are black markets and stuff for these games, but the idea of Upland is providing it, in a very clear way that you can extract value, you can create value in the ecosystem, which makes it a very real world-like economy.
Yeah, you can be an entrepreneur, right? Like there's not a lot of places where you could do that. And again, these are signals of an economy.
Absolutely. So I also have seen a lot of concerns on property earnings. Obviously.
Okay. All right. So let's pause it there. He didn't really give, but inflation of UPX will actually help USD prices, because if there isn't enough USD, new players then can just buy props for USD. But not inflating UPX will actually help. I don't. Okay, all right. I like that you bring up inflating UPX. I would like to know, how do you inflate UPX? Do you inflate UPX by bringing more UPX into the game? Because in this video, he did state that 1,000 UPX is equivalent to one US dollar, right? You are exchanging $1 US for one UPX. Okay. The real issue is if the US dollar is inflated, then maybe it will inflate the price of the UPX. Remember, the UPX isn't adjusted to the price of the US dollar, which floats and fluctuates on a regular basis. So maybe that's where the inflation comes from. I can't say exactly, but I understand that the United States or just the world economy is a debt-based system. So whenever, for example, you use a credit card, right? There's actually no money on your credit card. You create that money by swiping it, because you exchange it for a good, a service, or a product, or whatever it is, right? And then now you have created a debt, which now you have to go and work and earn money to now pay off that debt. So when you swipe that credit card for that good, that product, or whatever it is, now you have to now create value for that money, for that credit that you took off of the card. You create the value for, because now you have to go work and earn money, right, to go and pay that credit card back. This is why I don't understand the whole inflating of UPX, right? Maybe they're thinking that because people are buying more UPX, and I think it's more so about the property earnings. Because remember, there's a lot of guys like Loyal Door recently put out a video saying that he put $50,000 into Upland. $50,000 is what, like 500 million or something like that. So imagine his monthly earnings that he generates, and he doesn't have to put another dime into the game. Maybe that's where the inflation comes from, where all the wealthy players are able to generate even more monthly earnings than everybody else, to be able to go into new cities and so on and so forth, and just mint everything else out, and then exchange them for USD to cash out the money. Maybe that's what they want to slow down. I don't know. But like I said, they weren't really clear. But that's, for me, from my perspective, that's how I can see the inflation of UPX, because of players that were early and they were minting a lot of properties very cheap, and they put a lot of money into the game earlier into the game. And then us guys, because I've only been in the game for about a year, came in a year and a half ago, and then by the time 2022 started, there was enough players in the game for those early guys to start exiting out on all of those properties, and they chose to sell everything cheap because they didn't necessarily have to do anything to earn that UPX, because they've already bought so many properties so early in the game that they were generating high incomes off of these properties, and then they cashed out all of their investment, or half of their investment, or quarter of their investment, and still have enough monthly earnings that they still don't have to put any additional money into the game. So maybe that's where the whole inflation, or maybe that's where they want to slow it down because of that. I'm not really sure, but that's just my interpretation of it right now, based on the fact that you bring up the UPIX, right? Inflation of UPIX. I don't know how it will help the USD prices, because I don't believe it's inflated. Because if UPIX was inflated, the prices in LA, or not LA, in Brooklyn, Manhattan, and San Francisco wouldn't drop as much as it has dropped if the price was inflated. Because right now it's more of a deflationary, because the last month UPIX demanded a lot of what's it called? A lot of UPIX, and people were selling a lot of things very cheaply in UPIX value. And I'm not really sure. I can't say for USD if that dropped, but I know the UPIX dropped a lot. You could have gotten into San Francisco for like 24,000 UPIX. When was that ever popular? That was never popular when, or sorry, not popular. That was never possible when I got into the game. You weren't able to buy anything then. I think at that time it was probably about 50 or 60,000, and then everything ballooned up to over 100,000. But good point though. Like I'm not gonna say I disagree, but I just don't see that perspective when it comes to the whole inflating of UPIX and how it may help USD. I don't think it really changed the price of USD, because the price of the USD sells were like a quarter of what, or maybe even less than that, of what the UPIX prices were. Like you would see people mint a property for 9,000-10,000 UPIX, but it was being sold for $4 or $5 USD, and it was just like, how? But I believe that's because these guys were early in the game. They bought everything for cheap. They invested a lot of money into the game, generated more than enough than they really needed in property earnings, and then they just minted properties and sold it for cheap. Okay, let's bring you up here. But if I am a new player and there isn't any UPIX for sale, then I could buy property secondary market for USD, which would increase the floor. Yes, yeah. I agree with that. Yes, it would increase the floor of the properties and stuff in the US dollar purchases, but I haven't really seen that yet in the game. I would like to see it. It would be good. It would be good for everyone that's cashing out, definitely. If it would increase the floor on the USD, it would make it a lot easier for people to cash out, because there would be more demand for properties in USD than UPIX, which I guess in turn would be a good idea, right? But yeah, I agree with you there. For new players, yeah, that would be a great way for them to enter into the game, and that would give them an advantage too. If they come into the game with a lot of USD, they could buy up a lot of these properties that are mint 5-6 times more in UPIX than it is in USD, and then they'll probably end up in the same predicament and those other players, where they buy a lot of properties that are generating them a lot of UPIX, and then once they generate a certain amount of UPIX, they can now mint a whole bunch of properties pretty much free of cost almost, and then sell it for USD at obviously a higher price. But yeah, that could work. I agree with that 100%. Yeah, I do. I like that. That's a good one. I like that. Because right now the secondary market in Upland, as far as I see it, is like almost dead. I don't know. I haven't been selling a lot of properties, but it's almost dead. there was a point where there was no reason to really buy in the secondary market because a new city was coming out within a week or within 2 weeks. So everyone was liquidating to increase their UPIX or their USD accumulation or earnings or whatever it is. Like, I think that was the opportunity for a lot of us guys, whether you had USD or UPIX, to get in there and buy a lot of properties that were more valuable on a cheaper cost because guys are trying to liquidate to get into these new cities. But I don't know, man. This is just what I noticed and what kind of left me kind of confused a little bit about what they were saying and the double definition of inflation and how inflation works. So I don't know. Tomorrow is another day. I don't really know if I'll be able to get on the Discord. I really don't like Discord because the clocks just changed for us. So when this happened, it was around 6:30 or 6 o'clock, or I think it was around 6 o'clock. And at that time, I'm busy with my kids and stuff. So I won't necessarily be able to get it on the Discord. I'll be quite distracted. So I may miss that one, but hopefully they do like a YouTube video like this so I can actually go through it and find if I find any issues or it gives me a reason to change my vote. But I would like to know if you guys if you've watched it yet once, and let me know if it has changed your mind on anything that if it has changed your mind from what it was previously, because for me it's still the same. I don't see another reason for a change right now, but I need more information. And also, I did notice in this video there was a lot of metrics and stuff that they talked about, but they never actually gave us any of them. Additional information that we need to know, they're not going to give it to us until right before the voting, which kind of doesn't give you much time to really make intelligent decision. Or I don't know, maybe not, depends on what it is that exactly it is. But that's just how I see it, guys. Let me know in the comments, as always, if you agree or disagree or anything I missed. I will definitely have that conversation with you. I will share my thought as always. All right, guys, and thank you all so much for taking your time out to listen to me talk about what was done today about Upland and the whole overview and stuff like that. All right, guys, thank you so much. I will see you guys tomorrow. And for all my subscribers or all the individuals who watched this and haven't subscribed, please consider subscribing. I'll see you tomorrow or maybe another day. Good night.